Good morning, everyone. So today we're going to look at fire safety, which is the major topic which public health nurse should know under occupational health and safety, because fire mostly occurs in workplaces, in homes, and any place that you can think of. So before we go any further into this topic, let's look at what fire is. So it is just the rapid oxidation of materials of the exothermic chemical process of burning, where there is the release of heat, light, and other products. So fire safety. Fire safety, these are just measures that are taken, or rather precautions that are taken either by a home, a company, or an organization to prevent fire occurrences. We're going to look at the common sources of fire. The first one is naked flames. So naked flames can come from heating appliances where maybe you're cooking, and then the stove is not properly connected. We see these mostly in colleges where students just make a plate and then they connect with no proper wiring. The other one is just external sparks. So external sparks, for those of us who have seen people who do grinding at a welding place, you find that there are those sparks that come out. Those can also cause fire. Then hot surfaces from lighting or cooking appliances. The other one can be something that's just electrical overload. When we talk of electrical overload, there are people on one adapter or extension cable. You find that there is a plug for the stove, fridge, pressing iron. So these can cause a fire to start. Then we're going to look at the classifications of fire. So classifications of fire go from A, B, C, D, and F. So A, we're just talking about fires which involves materials such as wood, paper, and cardboard. Then class B, we have liquids such as paint. There are times when someone is painting, then a flammable substance. Maybe someone lights up a matches and then it just starts up a fire. Then we have gases. So these gases can either be butane and propane. Then we have metals, which can be aluminium or manganese. So this can start up a fire. Then for class F, we're just looking at high temperatures, such as cooking oil and fats. So these mostly are found in high establishments, such as restaurants, or maybe these hotels where they cook food in large numbers. So we're also going to look at the principles of heat transmission. So heat transfer can be done into different ways. So the first one is convection. So convection, you're just saying it's just the movement of gases through the air. So mostly you find that as it is burning down there, as fire continues to go up, you find that in places like houses where they have got chimneys, fire will start like to want to escape. And then we have conduction, which is just the movement of heat through a material, e.g. solids. Then radiation, this is where you have transfer of heat through the air, and then there's just direct transmission through the emission of heat waves. So this can cause a surface to heat up and then causing fire. Then we have direct burning. This is just when you have combustible materials which catch fire through contact with flames. It can either be the same radiation, convection, and conduction that we have talked about. Then we're going to look at fire risk assessment. So under fire risk assessment, there are about 4 things that you need to look at. Well, let me just say 5. So the first one, it's fire. Identify the fire hazards. So these fire hazards are supposed to be identified in a workplace or in an environment. So you should look at the depletion of oxygen, flames, heat, smoke. That's why you find that in certain areas we have a smoking zone for those who smoke. They just don't smoke from anywhere. They smoke and then they throw away the remaining stick. So under that, that's all we can say. So you have to identify sources of fire, naked flames, improper wiring which has not been done properly. Then the second one is identify how going to do this. So there are those who cannot move on their own. Let's say for an institution where they hire our friends activity. So you find that maybe they don't move on their own, use maybe a wheelchair. So for those, you find that you have to look at those because those are risks. They cannot run to an assembly point, fire assembly point. They have to look at the people who come to visit our company. So those can be the visually impaired, and then also those who cannot react as quickly as possible. So that's one of those. Then you have to evaluate and act. So how are you evaluating? During the evaluation, you're supposed to look at things that are vital. Then you look at evaluate because you have already identified, right? You look at things that really can start a fire. Look critical manner, and you can only achieve by keeping burning away, because you have already identified, and now you are acting and evaluating. So when you act on those gases, this burning, this is the propane. So those things are supposed to be stored in a place where they can cause a fire, or maybe when they mix a certain chemical, they cannot fire. Then the other one is record, plan, and train. So after you have identified the fire hazard, you're supposed to record those. Then the other one is plan on how you're going to prevent fire. So in this one, you can talk about the evacuation plan. Then you're also supposed to train people, or rather the workers at that work environment, on how to handle an event where fire occurs. Then you're going to review. Why are we reviewing these things that you have talked about? The first reason is could be that maybe there's been change to the hazards that were there. We have identified new hazards. Then the other one, it's maybe there has been new materials that have been brought in into an environment which can cause a fire. Then there could be changes. Maybe you have introduced new workers who have come into work. So those also need to be reviewed to see how much they have understood about the risk assessment that you have done and how they can prevent a fire. Then we need to know the principles of fire prevention. The first one is adhere to building codes. So each building has codes where in an event of a fire, certain things should be done, and ensuring that there is the provision of fire codes, e.g., exits for stairs, then marking and signage. Marking and signage is very important, where you show in an event that there is a fire, a person should be able to follow those signages that have been put up in order to prevent themselves from getting burnt, or to escape before a building collapses in an event that fire is very severe. Then you must also do fire risk assessment, which is what we are just from talking about. So this is when a building equipment or a process is being modified. So I find that there are times when we do renovations on our buildings. So the moment that is done, the principle that you're going to do is you do a fire risk assessment in order to look at the modified building that you have put in place. Then proper storage of flammable and hazardous materials. So there are flammable gases. So those need to be stored in an area, for example, a hospital where they have oxygen cylinders. These cylinders should be stored in a place where they cannot catch fire, because we know that oxygen supports burning. Then the other one is installation of fire detectors. So these can be automatic or semi-automatic. The moment a fire starts, an alarm should go off to say, okay, there is fire. Yes. So now we're going to look at how you can extinguish a fire in an event that your building catches fire. The first one is cooling. So in cooling, you're just reducing the ignition temperature by taking the heat out of the fire. So this can be done using water. Then we have smoothing. So limiting the oxygen available by smoothing and preventing the mixture of oxygen with the flammable vapor. So in this one, the main thing that we're looking at, it's just limiting oxidation between the fire and any material that can cause fire to come about. Then we have starving. Starving, this is just limiting the fuel supply. So fuel supply, you're doing that by removing the source of the fuel, which is by switching off electrical power or isolating flow of flammable liquids from a place of fire. Then chemical reaction. This is where now you interrupt the chain of combustion and combining hydrogen atoms. For example, you can do that with chlorine atoms in hydrocarbon chain. Then what we're going to look at now, types of fire extinguishers. So water extinguisher. This one is just a fire extinguisher that contains water. So in this one, you're going to see that it has a red band around it. So that's the mark that you're going to notice. This fire extinguisher, it contains water. So this one is mostly used in class A fires, because we're saying you are trying to put off maybe something that was started by wood, paper, or carbon. So you can just use water. Then the other one, it's foam extinguisher. So when we talk of foam extinguisher, this one has a cream band, a cream white band. So this type of extinguisher can either be used in class A or class B, which is liquid. Class B, it's liquid, such as paints. Then these extinguishers should be mainly checked constantly to see if they have expired or not. So as a public health nurse, as you go to inspect workplaces and organizations, you should check that they have the right fire extinguisher, because having a right fire extinguisher helps to put off a burning flame. You cannot use a different fire extinguisher on a different type of class of fire. Hence, you as a public health nurse should be able to advise the companies and organizations on which fire extinguisher is best according to your fire risk assessment that you have done. Then powder extinguisher, this one has a blue band. So this blue band, this is where you now see that the type of extinguisher is mostly used in fires involving electrical equipment, maybe a machine just starts up a fire. So this one can be used. Then carbon dioxide extinguishers, these have a black band, and this extinguisher is particularly suitable for fires involving electrical equipment as well, such as computers. Then we have wet chemical. This one is mostly used in class F fires. So it's suitable for chemical catering establishments because it can put off fire which starts with oils or fats. You cannot use a wet chemical fire extinguisher on these other types of classes. For example, you cannot use water, the fire extinguisher which contains water, on class F fires, because when you put water to oils, the thing is it definitely burns up. So that's why you're saying you need to have the right fire extinguisher for the right type of fire. Then evacuation plans on how you are going to evacuate an area which has been caught by a fire. You as a public health nurse, as you assess areas of working environment, must know these things to help a company be at a certain level of safety when it comes to fire. So the first one, we're looking at doors. So the doors mostly need to be open, and these doors should be wide such that they are able to accommodate at least 50 people as they are running from a place of fire to a fire assembly point for the head count, because you need to know if maybe anyone has remained in the building during that fire. So they need to have large doors, and the passage to these doors should be spacious. They should not be things placed in the passage, because you find that people may trip on it as they're trying to rush to the door. Then escape routes or travel distances. So the escape route should have a certain criteria where two or more escape routes should be there, which leads to different directions. Because you may find that even though you have a 50 doorway passage, people may be 100 and then they fail to pass. So routes should have at least leading to 2 or more places, so that people may run in different directions but find themselves outside where it is safe for them. Then escape routes need to be shorter. They shouldn't be kilometers, no. It needs to be shorter, that when a person is just coming out of their office, they are already outside to prevent themselves from getting burnt. Then we're saying lighting. A passage or an escape route where people are going to be passing, there should be proper lighting, so that you don't find people tripping over or people bumping into each other as they are trying to come out of a burning building. Then signages, proper signages. That's what I'm saying. During your fire risk assessment, you should train people, or you should train employees and employers on proper signage, because this proper signage is going to help people understand, say, okay, this route that I'm taking is leading to this place. It should show where an exit point is. People should not be looking for an exit point. No, just by looking at the signage, they're able to tell, to say, okay, I'm supposed to go this direction. Then escape times. Everyone in the building should be able to get the nearest fire safety place within 2 to 3 minutes. It shouldn't take 10, 20 or 30 minutes. No, the time frame should be less than 3 minutes. Then we're going to talk about the assembly and roll call. So each working environment should have a fire assembly point where people should assemble. So during this assembly, there should be a head count. you should count how many employees came for work that day. That's why you find that when you're going into a certain building, you write somewhere what time you have gone in and what time you have left. So when they look at that register of people who have entered, because you don't work there, they are able to tell, to say, okay, this person has come out, or this person is still in the building. And when they call out, they are able to rescue that person within the shortest period of time. Then you must also have fire drills. So these drills only helps employees and employers in an event that there is a fire. They are able to put off a fire, or rather minimize damage or loss control in events of fire. So drills are very important. They should be done frequently in order to train new employees as well as old employees on things that they might have forgotten during training. Then we're going to look at a fire triangle. So a fire triangle, this is just a diagram which represents three components of fire. The first one is heat, we have oxygen, and then we have a fuel. So in an event of a fire, you find that oxygen in the atmosphere itself, we have about 16% oxygen. So anything that is flammable that comes in contact with oxygen, you find that it can start up a fire, because we're saying oxygen supports burning. Then we have heat sources. So to reach heat sources, you find that each material has a limit to which they can react to a certain temperature of heat, and when that temperature is reached, you find that a fire can be started. Then we have fuel. So these can be in physical states. We have natural gases, we have liquids such as kerosene, then we have solids such as wood, paper, cardboard, that we talked about in the class A fires. So these, once they are put near a flammable gas, or maybe close to a certain heat temperature, they might start up a fire. Hence, when you're trying to prevent fire, one of these three should be removed to stop a fire. So you can either remove oxygen, that's why we spoke of smothering, where you remove the oxygen away from the fire itself. Then either you remove the fuel, which can either be the kerosene or the paper, wood, and cardboard, or the heat sources. So about the fire triangle, we are saying heat, it is necessary for ignition, for fire to occur, and different materials to have flash points where if a certain heat is reached, then fire can easily start. It can be easily started, sorry. Then fire safety rules that you're supposed to follow. So this will be a last part. Fire safety rules, we're saying check all smoke and fire alarms that they are functioning properly. Don't just install, but check if they are functioning properly. Just try to set up a scenario, then you see that okay, they can easily go off in terms of where smoke is detected. Then have an action plan. This action plan, it's where we're talking about the evacuation plan. It's what we talked about, the doors, the escape routes. So these should be put in place. Then rooms should never be left with an open flame, as this can easily start up a fire. Then leave at least one or more fire extinguisher in an area where it can easily be accessed by anyone. Then you must conduct inspections. So that is it about fire. Thank you very much for everyone who was watching.